The glaring summer heat shimmered across the fairgrounds as Vivian Reeves clutched her swollen belly, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over her like the monsoon rains that occasionally blessed the Arizona territory. It was 1882, and the Mohave County Fair in Kingman was in full swing, despite the unforgiving August sun that beat down on the dusty settlement nestled between craggy mountains and endless sky. Vivian had come to the fair alone, something most women in her condition wouldn't dare, but she'd grown accustomed to handling life's challenges without help. 6 months pregnant and widowed just 8 weeks prior, when her husband's mining accident left her with nothing but memories and an unborn child, she had no choice but to carry on. The fair offered a brief respite from her grief, a chance to feel something beyond the emptiness that had settled into her small rented room at the boarding house. Owen Mitchell didn't particularly care for county fairs, but as the newest rancher in Mohave County, he understood the importance of community presence. He'd arrived in Kingman 3 months ago, purchasing a struggling cattle ranch 10 miles outside of town. At 32, he was finally establishing himself after years of drifting across the Western Territories, working as a hired hand and saving every penny. His dark brown Stetson shaded piercing blue eyes that missed little, and his tall frame moved with the easy confidence of a man comfortable in his own skin. He was examining a display of new farming implements when commotion erupted near the baking contest tent. A woman's voice called out in alarm, and Owen turned to see a crowd gathering around something or someone on the ground. "Give her air," someone shouted. Owen's long strides carried him quickly to the scene, where he found a young woman collapsed in the dirt, her face alarmingly pale against the vibrant blue of her dress. Most concerning was her visibly pregnant condition. "Stand back," he commanded with the natural authority that came from years of managing ranch hands. The crowd parted as he knelt beside her. "Madam, can you hear me?" Vivian's eyelids fluttered as consciousness returned. The world came into focus slowly, first the concerned face of a man she didn't recognize, then the circle of onlookers above her. "I'm fine," she whispered, though the weakness in her voice betrayed the lie. "Just the heat." "Dr. Reynolds," someone called out. "Fetch the doctor." "I'm here," came a reply as the town physician pushed through the crowd. The older man knelt beside Owen, his experienced hands checking Vivian's pulse. "Mrs. Reeves," he said with familiarity, "this is becoming a habit. I warned you about overexertion in your condition." "I just wanted to see the fair," Vivian replied, embarrassment coloring her cheeks as she tried to sit up. The doctor gently pressed her back down. "You need rest and water. Your pulse is racing." "I'll be fine. If someone could just help me back to Mrs. Holloway's boarding house, that's clear across town," Dr. Reynolds frowned. "In this heat, walking that distance would be foolish." Owen, who had remained silent during the exchange, spoke up. "I have my wagon, I can take her." The doctor glanced at him, recognition dawning. "Mr. Mitchell, isn't it? From the old Peterson place," Owen nodded. "I can drive the lady wherever she needs to go." Dr. Reynolds turned to Vivian. "Mrs. Reeves, I believe this is your best option. Mr. Mitchell is new to our community, but he's a respectable rancher." Vivian looked at Owen, taking in his weather-worn face and kind eyes. There was something reassuring about him, a steadiness that contrasted sharply with her current state of turmoil. "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I appreciate your kindness." Without hesitation, Owen slipped his arms beneath her, lifting her with a gentleness that belied his strength. The crowd parted as he carried her through the fairgrounds, her weight barely registering against his frame hardened by years of physical labor. "My wagon's just beyond the entrance," he explained, his voice low and calm. "I'll have you home soon enough." The journey across Kingman was mercifully short, the horses responding to Owen's commands as they navigated the town's unpaved streets. Vivian directed him to Mrs. Holloway's boarding house, a modest two-story structure with a fresh coat of white paint distinguishing it from the weathered buildings surrounding it. "Second floor, room at the end of the hall," Vivian instructed as Owen carried her up the steps. Mrs. Holloway herself appeared at the door, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "Mrs. Reeves, what's happened?" "She collapsed at the fair," Owen explained. "The doctor said she needs rest and water." The older woman clucked her tongue. "I told her not to go out in this heat." "Come in, bring her upstairs." Owen navigated the narrow staircase, acutely aware of the woman in his arms. Though she was pregnant, she felt too light, as if grief had hollowed her out. He'd seen that kind of loss before in his own reflection years ago. The room was small but meticulously kept, with a narrow bed against one wall and a rocking chair beside a window overlooking the street. Owen gently laid Vivian on the bed as Mrs. Holloway bustled in with a pitcher of water. "I'll fetch some cool cloths," the landlady said, pouring water into a glass and helping Vivian drink. Left momentarily alone with Vivian, Owen shifted uncomfortably, removing his hat. "Is there anyone I should notify? Family or friends who might come sit with you?" Vivian shook her head, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "There's no one. My husband died in the Silverton mine collapse. His family's back east and mine." She trailed off, the explanation unnecessary. The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken understanding. Owen knew all too well what it meant to stand alone against life's hardships. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Reeves." "Thank you." She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And thank you for your help today." "I don't know what would have happened if—" "No need to think on that," he interrupted gently. "Anyone would have done the same." But they both knew that wasn't necessarily true. In the harsh realities of the Western Territories, kindness without expectation wasn't something to take for granted. Mrs. Holloway returned with damp cloths, effectively ending their conversation. "Now, Mr. Mitchell, Owen Mitchell, Mr. Mitchell, I thank you for bringing our Mrs. Reeves home safely, but she needs rest now." Owen nodded, settling his hat back on his head. "Of course, Mrs. Reeves, I wish you a swift recovery." He turned to leave, but Vivian's voice stopped him at the door. "Mr. Mitchell, truly thank you." With a tip of his hat, Owen departed, leaving the two women alone. As he climbed onto his wagon, he found himself glancing back at the second-story window, a strange reluctance to leave tugging at him. That evening, as Owen sat on the porch of his modest ranch house, the image of Vivian Reeves kept returning to him. There was something about her quiet dignity, the way she carried both her child and her grief without complaint, that resonated with him. He knew what it was to forge ahead when the path seemed impossibly dark. Without fully examining his motives, Owen found himself riding into Kingman the following morning. He told himself he was simply checking on her welfare, as any decent neighbor might do. After securing his horse at the hitching post, he approached Mrs. Holloway's boarding house, a small basket of fresh vegetables from his garden in hand. Mrs. Holloway answered his knock, her eyebrows rising in surprise. "Mr. Mitchell, I didn't expect to see you again." "I brought some fresh produce for Mrs. Reeves," he explained, suddenly feeling foolish. "Thought it might help with her recovery." The landlady's expression softened. "That's very thoughtful. She's been resting, but I'm sure she'd appreciate a brief visitor. Come in." She led him upstairs, knocking gently on Vivian's door before opening it. "Mrs. Reeves, you have a visitor. Mr. Mitchell has come to check on you." Vivian was sitting in the rocking chair by the window, her hair loose around her shoulders and a shawl draped over her nightgown. She looked startled by his appearance but quickly composed herself. "Mr. Mitchell, this is unexpected." "I won't stay long," he assured her, remaining in the doorway. "Just wanted to make sure you were recovering and to bring you these." He held out the basket awkwardly. "I'll leave you two to visit," Mrs. Holloway said with a knowing smile that made Owen's ears redden slightly. "Door stays open, mind you." After she departed, Owen cautiously entered the room, placing the basket on the small table. "Garden's producing more than I can eat. Thought you might make use of these." Vivian peered into the basket, genuine pleasure lighting her face. "Fresh tomatoes and cucumbers." "That's very kind of you." An awkward silence fell between them until Vivian gestured to the lone chair in the room. "Please sit, unless you need to rush off." Owen removed his hat, sitting gingerly on the wooden chair. "No rush. Ranch hands can manage without me for a spell." "You have a ranch near Kingman. I don't recall hearing about it." "Just bought the old Peterson place 3 months back. Been so busy getting it in order, haven't socialized much in town." Vivian nodded. "I understand. I've been keeping to myself as well since Thomas died." "Your husband?" "Yes." Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. He was so excited about the baby, had all sorts of plans. Owen's gaze followed her movement. "When are you due?" "November, the doctor thinks." Her smile was tinged with sadness. "Just in time for winter." The implications hung in the air. A new mother, alone with an infant as the harsh Arizona winter settled in. The boarding house, while adequate now, would be a difficult place to care for a newborn. "You have plans?" "For after?" Vivian sighed, her fingers worrying the edge of her shawl. "I'm still figuring that out. Thomas left some money, but not enough to last more than a few months. I've been taking in sewing work, but that will become difficult once the baby arrives." Owen nodded, understanding the precariousness of her situation. In the territories, a woman alone faced limited options, none of them particularly appealing. "I should let you rest," he said, standing abruptly. "But if you need anything, supplies or help with errands, don't hesitate to ask. Mrs. Holloway knows where to find me." "That's very generous, Mr. Mitchell, but I couldn't impose." "It's no imposition. Neighbors help neighbors out here. It's how we all survive." He placed his hat back on his head. "Good day, Mrs. Reeves." As he left the boarding house, Owen was struck by an unfamiliar restlessness. The thought of returning to his empty ranch house suddenly seemed less appealing than it had that morning. He found himself stopping at the general store, purchasing items he hadn't planned on: sugar, coffee, a length of sturdy fabric that the shopkeeper's wife assured him would make excellent baby blankets. "Starting a family, Mr. Mitchell?" she asked with a smile. "No, madam. Just helping out a neighbor." Over the next week, Owen found himself riding into Kingman every other day, always with some small token: fresh eggs, a jar of honey from his hives, a book he thought Vivian might enjoy. Each visit lasted a little longer than the previous one, their conversations growing deeper as initial awkwardness gave way to genuine connection. He learned that Vivian had come west with Thomas 2 years ago, leaving behind a life of comfortable monotony in Pennsylvania for the promise of adventure and fortune. She spoke of her husband with fondness, but without the raw grief of new widowhood, leading Owen to suspect their marriage had been one of convenience and mutual respect rather than passionate love. For his part, Owen shared stories of his years working ranches across the territories, of saving money and dreaming of his own land. He spoke of the satisfaction of watching his herd grow and his fences extend, but he never mentioned the loneliness that sometimes overwhelmed him in the quiet evenings. By the 3rd week, their friendship had become the subject of town gossip, with opinions divided on the propriety of Owen's frequent visits to the widow. Mrs. Holloway, however, approved wholeheartedly. "That man is the first thing to put color in your cheeks since Thomas passed," she told Vivian one evening as they sat on the porch. "And it's high time Mr. Mitchell had someone other than his cattle to talk to." "We're just friends," Vivian protested, though she couldn't deny the flutter of anticipation she felt each time she heard his boots on the boarding house steps. "Of course you are," Mrs. Holloway replied with a smile that suggested she knew better. "But friendship can grow into something more, given time and care." The following Saturday, Owen arrived with his wagon instead of his horse. "Dr. Reynolds says you're well enough for short outings now," he explained. "Thought you might like to see my ranch." Vivian hesitated, aware of how such an excursion might appear to prying eyes. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate." "Mrs. Holloway is welcome to join us as chaperone," Owen offered, having anticipated her concern. "In fact, I was counting on her exceptional pie-making skills for our lunch." Mrs. Holloway, who had been eavesdropping shamelessly from the parlor, appeared in the doorway. "My apple pie did win first prize at the county fair 3 years running. Give me 20 minutes to pack a proper picnic." And so Vivian found herself riding beside Owen in his wagon, Mrs. Holloway seated behind them with a large basket, as they made their way out of Kingman. The late September air carried a hint of the cooler weather to come, a welcome relief after the punishing summer heat. "It's not much to look at compared to some spreads," Owen warned as they approached his property. "But it's got good water and plenty of room to grow." He was being modest. The ranch house, while simple, was solidly built and well maintained. A wide porch wrapped around 2 sides, offering shade and views across the rolling grasslands where cattle grazed. A barn, corral, and bunkhouse completed the main compound, with garden plots and fruit trees indicating Owen's intention for long-term sustainability. "It's wonderful," Vivian said honestly as he helped her down from the wagon. "How many acres?" 640. "A full section." Pride colored his voice. "And options on adjoining land if the herd grows as planned." Mrs. Holloway bustled past them, basket in hand. "I'll just set up our picnic on that lovely porch. You show Mrs. Reeves around, Mr. Mitchell. But not too far, mind you. She's still delicate." Owen offered his arm to Vivian, who took it gratefully. Her balance had become increasingly precarious as her pregnancy advanced. "The house isn't fancy," he said as he guided her inside. "But it's sound. No leaks, good thick walls to keep out the winter cold." Vivian was struck by the unexpected hominess of the interior. The main room served as both kitchen and living area, with a large stone fireplace dominating one wall. The furniture was simple but well crafted, and bright woven rugs softened the plank floors. "Did your wife decorate?" she asked, then immediately regretted the question when Owen's expression flickered. "No wife," he replied quietly. "Never found the right time or the right woman." The rugs and curtains came with the house. Mrs. Peterson had good taste, it seems. Embarrassed, Vivian changed the subject. "You mentioned a garden outside." Owen showed her his vegetable plots and the young orchard he'd started. "Apples and peaches should do well here. Maybe pears too, if I can get the soil right." As they walked slowly back toward the house, Vivian was struck by how at ease she felt with Owen. There was none of the nervousness she'd experienced during her courtship with Thomas, just a comfortable companionship that felt as natural as breathing. "You've built something remarkable here," she said as they climbed the porch steps. "You should be proud." "Getting there," Owen replied. "Still plenty of work ahead." He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "It's a good place to raise a family." The words hung between them, weighted with possibility. But before Vivian could respond, Mrs. Holloway called them to lunch. The afternoon passed pleasantly, with Mrs. Holloway regaling them with stories of Kingman's early days. As the sun began its descent, Owen reluctantly suggested they start back to town. "Thank you for today," Vivian said quietly as he helped her into the wagon. "It's been the nicest day I've had in a very long time." "Perhaps we could make it a regular outing," Owen suggested, his eyes meeting hers. "Every Saturday, weather permitting. The fresh air would be good for you and the baby." "I'd like that." Over the following weeks, their Saturday excursions became the highlight of Vivian's existence. Sometimes they stayed at the ranch, with Vivian resting on the porch while Owen worked nearby. Other times they explored the surrounding countryside, discovering hidden valleys and breathtaking vistas that few townsfolk ever saw. As October gave way to November, Vivian's due date approached, and with it, Owen's visits became more frequent. He began showing up every evening after supper, often with some small repair to make around the boarding house: a loose step that needed fixing, a window that wouldn't quite close against the coming winter chill. "That man is courting you without calling it courting, Mrs. Holloway declared one evening after Owen had left. "And doing a fine job of it, too." Vivian couldn't deny it any longer. Somewhere between that first day at the fair and now, her feelings for Owen had transformed from gratitude into something deeper and more complex. His steady presence had become essential to her, his voice the one she longed to hear, his smile the light in her increasingly uncomfortable days. But the timing was impossible. With her baby due any day, Vivian couldn't imagine burdening Owen with another man's child. And she couldn't bear the thought that he might be offering friendship out of pity rather than genuine affection. "Even if he is, it's not the right time," she told Mrs. Holloway. "He deserves a wife who can come to him free of complications." The landlady snorted. "Out here, everyone has complications. The question is whether he thinks you're worth them. And from where I'm sitting, that man has already made up his mind." The first snow of winter fell on November 12th, coating Kingman in a thin blanket of white that transformed the dusty town into something almost magical. Vivian stood at her window, watching children running through the streets throwing snowballs, when the first contraction seized her. By midday, Dr. Reynolds had been summoned, and the reality of childbirth became Vivian's entire world. Hours blurred together in a haze of pain and exhaustion as she fought to bring her child into the world. "Someone should fetch Mr. Mitchell," she heard Mrs. Holloway say during a brief moment of clarity. "He'd want to know." "Not appropriate," Dr. Reynolds replied. "This isn't his child." "It might as well be," Mrs. Holloway insisted, "and she needs all the support she can get." Vivian wanted to protest, to say that Owen shouldn't be bothered, but another contraction claimed her, and words became impossible. As darkness fell, complications arose. The baby was positioned wrong, and Vivian's strength was fading. "Dr." Reynolds' expression grew increasingly grim as he worked to turn the infant. "Mrs. Reeves, I need you to push harder," he urged. "The baby's in distress." Vivian summoned what little energy remained, bearing down with everything she had. Just when it seemed she could do no more, the door burst open and Owen rushed in, snow melting on his shoulders and hat. "What's happening?" he demanded, his face pale with worry. "Mr. Mitchell, this is highly irregular," Dr. Reynolds began. "Is she dying?" Owen's voice cracked on the last word. "Not if I can help it," the doctor replied grimly, "but she needs strength she doesn't have." Owen moved to Vivian's side, taking her hand. "I'm here," he said simply. "I'm not leaving." His presence seemed to ignite something in Vivian's determination, hope, a refusal to surrender. With renewed purpose, she pushed when instructed, drawing strength from Owen's steady grip and unwavering gaze. At 3:17 in the morning on November 13, 1882, William Thomas Reeves entered the world with a powerful cry that belied the difficulty of his arrival. Dr. Reynolds cleaned the squalling infant and placed him on Vivian's chest. "You have a healthy son, Mrs. Reeves." Tears streamed down Vivian's face as she cradled her baby, marveling at his perfect features and the thatch of dark hair that covered his head. "Hello, William," she whispered. "Your father would have been so proud." Owen remained silent, still holding her hand, his eyes fixed on the miraculous scene before him. When Vivian finally looked up at him, the emotion in his gaze took her breath away. "Thank you for staying," she said softly. "I told you I wouldn't leave," he replied. "And I meant it." Over the next week, Owen practically moved into the boarding house, sleeping in the chair beside Vivian's bed and caring for William when exhaustion overtook the new mother. Mrs. Holloway, far from objecting to this unconventional arrangement, facilitated it by providing meals and running interference with nosy neighbors. "The man's in love with you," she told Vivian bluntly one afternoon while Owen was out purchasing supplies. "And if I'm not mistaken, you feel the same." Vivian, nursing William in the rocking chair, couldn't deny it any longer. "I do, but it's complicated. Only if you make it so." The older woman sat on the edge of the bed. "Life out here is too short and too hard to waste time on unnecessary complications. That man wants to be a father to your son and a husband to you. The question is, are you brave enough to let him?" That evening, when Owen returned with the supplies and a tiny carved wooden horse for William, for when he's older, Vivian found the courage to speak her heart. "Owen," she began as he settled into his usual chair beside her bed, "we need to talk about what happens next." His expression grew guarded. "What do you mean? You can't keep sleeping in that chair forever. You have a ranch to run, a life that doesn't revolve around taking care of us." "I've got good hands. The ranch is fine." His jaw set stubbornly. "And I don't mind the chair. That's not the point." Vivian took a deep breath. "People are talking about us, about the impropriety of your staying here. Let them talk." His voice was flat. Unless you want me to go." The vulnerability in his question nearly undid her. "No, that's not what I want at all." Hope flickered in his eyes. "What do you want, Vivian?" It was the first time he'd used her given name, and the intimacy of it gave her courage. "I want what makes no sense at all. I want you to stay, not just now but always. I want William to know you as his father. I want marry me." Owen leaned forward, taking her hands in his. "That's what I've been trying to find the courage to ask for weeks now. Marry me, Vivian. Let me be a father to William. Let me love you both for the rest of my days." Tears spilled down Vivian's cheeks. "Are you certain? A ready-made family isn't what most men dream of." "It's exactly what I dream of. You and William are all I want in this world." He reached out to stroke the baby's head where he slept in the cradle beside them. "I know it might seem fast, but out here, life doesn't wait. I've watched men spend years searching for what I found the moment I carried you home from that fair." Vivian's heart felt too full for her chest. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Owen's smile was like sunrise after the longest night. He leaned forward, kissing her with gentle reverence that spoke of promises kept and a future cherished. They were married 2 weeks later in Kingman's small church, with Mrs. Holloway holding William and most of the town in attendance. The gossips who had clucked their tongues at Owen's improper residence at the boarding house now dabbed at their eyes as the couple exchanged vows. "I, Owen James Mitchell, take thee, Vivian Elizabeth Reeves, to be my lawfully wedded wife," he promised, his voice steady and sure. "To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Owen kissed his bride with such tenderness that Mrs. Holloway wasn't the only one wiping away tears. The reception at the town hall was a joyous affair, with music and dancing and enough food to feed twice the number of guests. Through it all, Owen never strayed far from Vivian's side, as if afraid she might disappear if he looked away for too long. As evening approached, he leaned close to her ear. "Are you ready to go home, Mrs. Mitchell? Home." The word held such promise now. Not the boarding house room where she had weathered grief and childbirth, but the ranch house Owen had prepared for them, with its solid walls and wraparound porch where they would watch sunsets together for decades to come. "Yes," she replied, squeezing his hand. "I'm ready to go home, Mrs." Holloway insisted on keeping William for the night. Every new bride deserves at least one night of privacy, even if she's already a mother. And though Vivian was reluctant to be separated from her son, she couldn't deny the wisdom of the arrangement. The ranch house glowed with lantern light as Owen's wagon approached, a welcoming beacon in the growing darkness. When they reached the porch, Owen surprised her by lifting her into his arms. "Threshold tradition," he explained with a smile, carrying her inside. Vivian gasped when she saw the interior. Gone was the sparse bachelor furnishing she remembered. In its place were new curtains, a plush rug before the fireplace, and a beautiful rocking chair positioned to catch the morning light. "When did you do all this?" "Been working on it since the day William was born." Owen set her gently on her feet. "Wanted it to be perfect for you." Vivian turned in a slow circle, taking in the evidence of his care and foresight: the cradle in the corner, the shelves stocked with provisions, the fresh flowers on the table. Every detail spoke of his commitment to making this a true home for her and William. "It's perfect," she whispered, overcome with emotion. Owen crossed to her, taking her hands in his. "There's just one more thing." He led her to the bedroom door and pushed it open. The bedroom was transformed from the utilitarian space she remembered into a haven of comfort. A large bed with a handmade quilt dominated the room, flanked by matching nightstands with oil lamps casting a warm glow. "I had help," Owen admitted. "Mrs. Holloway advised on what a lady might like. And the quilt, that's from my mother, only thing I have of hers." The significance of this gesture wasn't lost on Vivian. "Owen, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." He drew her into his arms. "Just be happy here, that's all I want." Their first night as husband and wife was a revelation for both of them. Owen's tenderness as they consummated their marriage brought Vivian to tears, his patience and care washing away memories of more perfunctory marital relations with Thomas. For Owen, the trust Vivian placed in him, opening herself to love again despite all she had endured, was a gift beyond measure. As they lay together afterward, Owen's hand resting protectively on her hip, Vivian marveled at the twisting path that had led her here. 6 months ago, she had been facing motherhood alone, uncertain of her future and burdened by grief. Now she lay in the arms of a man who loved her and her son with a devotion that humbled her. "What are you thinking about?" Owen asked, his voice rumbling against her cheek where it rested on his chest. "How lucky I am," she replied honestly. "How thankful I am that I fainted at that county fair." Owen's arms tightened around her. "I'm the lucky one. Every day I thank God for putting me in the right place at the right time." The following morning, they rode into town to collect William, both eager to begin their life as a family. Mrs. Holloway handed over the baby with knowing smile and a basket of provisions. "He was an angel all night," she assured them. "Already has his father's temperament." Neither Vivian nor Owen corrected her use of father. In every way that mattered, Owen was William's father now, and the legal adoption papers already filed with the territorial court would soon make it official. The first months of marriage brought adjustments for all of them. Vivian learned to manage a ranch household, which differed significantly from town life. Owen became adept at soothing a fussy baby while still handling the demands of his growing cattle operation. Together, they established routines and traditions that strengthened their bonds as a family. Winter gave way to spring, and with the warmer weather came new beginnings. Owen expanded the garden, with Vivian overseeing the planting of vegetables and herbs. The fruit trees blossomed, promising a bountiful harvest come fall. William grew stronger daily, his personality emerging in gummy smiles and determined attempts to roll over. By summer, as William approached 8 months old, Vivian realized she was pregnant again. She shared the news with Owen one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, William asleep in his father's arms. "Are you certain?" Owen asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "Dr. Reynolds confirmed it yesterday. We'll have a winter baby due around January." Owen's free arm pulled her close, his kiss expressing what words couldn't contain: joy, gratitude, love beyond measure. "You've made me the happiest man in the Arizona Territory." "Even with 2 babies under 2 years, Vivian teased, though a hint of anxiety colored her voice, especially then. Owen's expression grew serious. "Vivian, when I found you at that fair, I was a man with land and cattle, but nothing that truly mattered. You and William gave me a family, something I'd stopped hoping for. Another child. That's a blessing I never dared dream of." As summer progressed into autumn, Vivian's pregnancy advanced without the complications that had marked her time carrying William. Owen attributed this to her happiness and security, while Dr. Reynolds more pragmatically credited better nutrition and reduced stress. The Mohave County Fair arrived again, 1 year after their fateful meeting. This time, Vivian attended on Owen's arm, proudly showing off both her husband and son to the community. William, now crawling and babbling, charmed everyone he met, especially when he raised his arms to Owen with cries of "Da da." "He's the spitting image of you, Mitchell," one rancher commented, squinting between father and son. Owen just smiled, neither confirming nor denying the observation. In his heart, William was his son in every way that mattered. As they strolled through the fairgrounds, Vivian paused near the spot where she had collapsed the previous year. "It seems like another lifetime," she mused. "I was so afraid then, so alone." Owen's arm tightened around her waist. "You'll never be alone again. That's a promise." Their second child, a daughter they named Elizabeth Grace Mitchell, arrived during a January snowstorm in 1884. Unlike William's difficult birth, Elizabeth entered the world quickly and with minimal fuss, as if eager to join their family. "She has your eyes," Owen said in awe, cradling his newborn daughter. "And your spirit, I'd wager." William, not quite understanding the concept of a sibling, approached the baby with cautious curiosity. "Baby?" he asked, pointing to the bundle in his father's arms. "That's right, son. This is your sister, Elizabeth." Owen lowered the baby for William's inspection. "You're a big brother now." The toddler's solemn nod of acceptance made both parents laugh, easing the tension of the long night's labor. With 2 young children, life at the Mitchell Ranch became increasingly busy but filled with joy. Owen expanded the house, adding 2 bedrooms and enlarging the kitchen. Vivian, with Mrs. Holloway's occasional assistance, managed the household with graceful efficiency while still finding time to establish a small but productive poultry operation that brought in extra income. By 1886, the Mitchell Ranch had nearly doubled in size and profitability. Owen's careful management and forward-thinking investments had paid off, allowing them to weather the economic uncertainties affecting many Western territories. Their family had grown as well, with the addition of James Thomas Mitchell, born in the summer of 1885. 3 children under 5. Vivian sometimes marveled as she watched them playing in the yard. If someone had told me this would be my life 4 years ago, I never would have believed them. Owen, coming up behind her to wrap his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. Regrets? Not a single one. She turned in his embrace to face him. Every difficulty, every heartache led me to you. How could I regret that? Their love had deepened over the years, tempered by the challenges of frontier life and strengthened by shared purpose. The passionate attraction that had surprised them both in the early days of their marriage had matured into something even more powerful, a partnership built on mutual respect, unwavering support, and the kind of bone-deep understanding that comes only with time. As their children grew, so did the community around them. Kingman evolved from a rough frontier settlement into a proper town with improved amenities and expanding commerce. The arrival of the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad had brought new opportunities and increased the value of local ranches considerably. In 1887, Owen was elected to the county commission, his reputation for fair dealing and sound judgment making him a natural choice for leadership. Vivian, meanwhile, helped establish the town's first proper school, ensuring their children and others would have educational opportunities she had taken for granted back east. "We're building something lasting here," Owen observed one evening as they sat on their porch, watching their children chase fireflies in the gathering dusk. "Not just for ourselves, but for them and their children after them." Vivian nodded, her hand finding his. "That's what I love most about our life, that we're creating a legacy together." William, now 5 and showing signs of the thoughtful, determined man he would become, ran up to them with cupped hands. "Look what I caught," he exclaimed, carefully opening his fingers to reveal a glowing firefly. "Gentle now," Owen cautioned, pulling the boy onto his knee. "Living things deserve our respect." Elizabeth, 4 and fearless, was close behind with her own captured insect. "Mine's bigger," she declared, though both fireflies were identical. Not to be outdone, 2-year-old James toddled after his siblings, his chubby hands empty but his face alight with the simple joy of inclusion. "Me too." Vivian lifted her youngest onto her lap, dropping a kiss on his dark curls. "Yes, you too, my love. Always." As darkness fell, and the children were tucked into bed with stories and lullabies, Owen and Vivian returned to the porch, savoring the quiet moment together. The vast sky above them sparkled with stars, a canopy of possibilities stretching to the horizon. "Do you remember what you said to me the night William was born?" Owen asked, his voice soft in the darkness. "When I came rushing in," Vivian smiled at the memory. "I think I was in too much pain to say much of anything coherent. You said you came." Just those 2 words, but with such relief, such trust. He took her hand, running his thumb over her wedding ring. "In that moment I knew I would spend my life trying to deserve that trust." "You have," Vivian assured him, "every day in 1,000 ways." Owen's kiss was gentle, a reaffirmation of vows spoken and promises kept. "I carried you home that day at the fair, but the truth is, you carried me too, out of loneliness, out of an empty existence. You gave me purpose, a family, a reason for everything else to matter." Under the vast Arizona sky, their whispered words of love were carried on the night breeze, a testament to a journey that began with a moment of weakness but had built into a lifetime of strength. From a collapsed woman at a county fair, and the cowboy who carried her home had grown a legacy of love that would endure for generations to come. In the years that followed, the Mitchell family continued to thrive. William grew up to take over the ranch operations, expanding it into one of the territory's most successful cattle enterprises. Elizabeth, with her mother's compassion and her father's determination, became a teacher and eventually founded Kingman's first proper hospital. James, the youngest, surprised everyone by developing a talent for law, becoming an influential voice in Arizona's push for statehood. Through it all, Owen and Vivian remained the steady heart of the family, their love story becoming the foundation upon which their children built their own lives. Their home was always open, their wisdom freely given, their love unconditional. On their 50th wedding anniversary in 1932, surrounded by children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren, Owen raised a glass to his wife, his blue eyes still bright with devotion despite the years etched on his weathered face. "To Vivian," he said, his voice carrying across the gathering, "who fainted at a county fair and gave me the courage to carry her home." Vivian, her once dark hair now silver but her smile unchanged, reached for his hand. And to Owen, who never left. Their love story, which began with a moment of weakness and an act of kindness, had become a legend in Kingman, proof that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings could lead to the most extraordinary journeys. From a pregnant woman who collapsed at the county fair, and the cowboy who carried her home and never left, had grown a legacy that would endure long after them. A testament to the power of love to transform not just two lives, but an entire community and all the generations to follow.